little bit chilly here. Feels winter, almost like a winter. So again, we can start with a short mindfulness breathing exercise, meditation to quiet our mind. Then we can try to generate good intentions. For example, by thinking, by us here coming together, giving our precious time to listen and to reflect and contemplate. May all this become cause and inspirations to work more hard in our life, to improve ourselves, to become a better person, better human being. And the way to make better human being, better persons is to trying to reduce and destroy those unhealthy negative thoughts, emotions, minds, and trying to improve the positive, healthy, positive state of minds, emotions, thoughts, feelings. Such as being more patient, being more understanding, loving, and compassion. being more mindful and improving our wisdom and skillful means. And because if we have less of those negative emotions and if we improve our positive state of minds, we will always be more help, benefit to others. We will always engage in less harmful and painful actions towards others and oneself. In other words, may it become cause and conditions to actualize all the spiritual lamrim realization within our mind stream. And having actualized those spiritual realizations in our mind stream, may we and may it be cause and conditions to actualize our highest potential, the fully awakened state. So that we can fulfill the highest purpose and well-being of all sentient beings, including oneself. Okay. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Shodam Sogi Sonam Ma Changchu Padu Dani Ya Dagi Shoshe Gibe Sonam Lola Benje Sangye Loba Sangye Shodam Sogi Sonam Changchu Padu Dani Dagi Shoshe Gibe Sonam Lola Benje Sangye Loba Sho. So we have been going through this particular text by the great Indian master, Atisha Divankara. And within that, we have already discussed about the practice of the first two, the small and middle scope practice. And we are in a section that describe about the practice of great scope. And within that, the author explain the practice of the great scope, in a brief and summarize, and then in more details. And so we just finish that he kind of explaining briefly. And from next, that is where he's going to be more detailed explanation of that practice. And within the detailed explanation of that practice, then there is the practice of Prasanaparamita path or yard, and in detail, and then detail and short mentioning of the practice of Vajrayana. Then in terms of the practice of sutra or prasana paramita path or yana or vehicles, then he explained about the path and the result of that path. And then when it comes to the path itself, then the actual explanation of the path, and before that, and before that, saying that explaining what he's going to explain. And so first that one. So I think we are in, again, I think it doesn't have unfortunately, we don't have the numbers in each verse like some other texts. So I think in a page number, which page number is there the page number?
I believe it's page 2.
Okay. Page 2, and then kind of third verse where it says, for those noble beings, if you have the text, So for those noble beings here, referring to those whose compassion is awakened, those individuals whose compassion has been awakened, or who have inclinations towards the path of bodhisattvas, that is those for those noble beings who desire or wish supreme enlightenment. Okay, so out of that compassions, the wish or inspirations to achieve supreme enlightenment, in order to benefit and liberate all sentient beings from all their suffering and cause of sufferings. For those beings who are interested, who are inclined into such practice, in such path, for those individual practitioners. So here the author, the Lama Atisha, is saying, I shall explain the perfect method, unmistaken the perfect method to achieve such supreme enlightenment. So he's going to explain the path, the method, unmistaken method, not only unmistaken, but unmistaken and complete path to that supreme enlightenment, or the perfect method or the path, and taught by the spiritual teachers. And he says here, in one way, he's being very humble, practicing humility. Instead of saying, I'm talking from my experience, or because I discovered this, or I found something new, he's saying, I'm going to share you, explain that I've learned from my teachers. Giving the credit to his teachers for whatever knowledge that he's sharing now, whatever knowledge, experience he's sharing them, giving credit to his teachers, saying that, that he have those that he's sharing now is that he learned and received from his spiritual teachers. Also is to kind of the teachings or experience has to be, rooted in something that's based on earliest practitioners and masters. And so, so the teachings become authentic. To be authentic, then it has to be, come from the earliest master's lineage unbrokenly. And so that is also to explain that path as well. And especially here, when he go in more detail, that especially, his particular teachers, Selingpa, I think he's might be Dhammarakshita. The name in Sanskrit, in Tibetan is Selingpa, with whom he studied 12 years, and especially on, loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta. So, studying with him, practicing, and through that he cultivated all this, his own true loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind. And Atisha very much, focus on this practice in his life, and that is what he taught the rest of his life, and because of that, because of his realization of that, and because he got that realization through, of course, his practice, but also through the help of that particular teacher with whom he studied on those teachings and practice. And so he always recollect his kindness. So whenever he mentioned of that teachers, out of naturally so much strong respect, devotion, he put his hand together all the time, and such. So mainly coming from that teachers, and he said, Atisha, whenever he meet anyone, like here we say, good morning, hello, namaste, in some cultures, tashidele in Tibetan, when you meet, greeting, Atisha always used to greet anyone he met. Did you have a good thought? That is how he used to greet everyone. Did you have a good thought? So it's greeting, but at the same time, it's kind of reminder to everyone. It's a reminder, and it's a teaching. It's just saying, did you practice love, compassion, bodhicitta? So that is he. Even with that, you understand how much emphasis he was on that. That was he. Whenever he meet anyone, his greeting word was, did you have good thought? Did you have good thought? Did you have nice thought, novel thought? So that is. So anyway, so that, and so that is. So next, in terms of the presenting the actual unmistaken perfect path or the method to that supreme enlightenment, when it comes to that, then there is an explanation of aspiring bodhicitta together with his commitment, engagement bodhicitta together with his commitments, so there is two kind of so going more detail in bodhicitta. So bodhicitta mind is the awakening mind, driven by true love, compassion to all sentient beings, the wish to achieve your highest potential, fully awakened state, so you can be greatest benefit to all of them. So that mind, bodhicitta mind, and within that bodhicitta mind, there are many different ways of presenting that bodhicitta mind, in terms of example, through different examples. There are 22 different type of bodhicitta mind that is explained in Maitreya's writings, like such as the bodhicitta like a earth, bodhicitta like a gold, bodhicitta like a full moon, like that with each different examples of bodhicitta. So there are 22 bodhicitta mind, of course, we are not going to go all of that, okay? And then in terms of generating the bodhicitta mind, individuals who try to generate the bodhicitta mind, through the way they generate bodhicitta mind, then there are three. That one I think I have also mentioned in the past, three kind of bodhicitta mind, the bodhicitta mind like a shepherd, the bodhicitta mind like a board, the bodhicitta mind like a king or the leader, So we also three kind of bodhicitta, the way individual bodhicitta practitioner generate bodhicitta mind, As I mentioned, in terms of like the king, bodhicitta like king is like first you want to achieve enlightenment and then lead all sentient beings to enlightenment. Okay? Just like in the king leads in the battle, the king, when they have battles, the king go first, that is how they lead. Similarly, the wish to achieve enlightenment, you first, and then lead all sentient beings later towards that enlightenment. That is the bodhicitta mind, like king. That normally that is how that is how we train to generate. In most of our practice, meditations is generally that is what we train mostly. But certain practitioners who have more courageous, whose mind is more courageous, then they feel like, they are willing to be in samsara, in the suffering state more, and to liberate oneself and all sentient beings together, not to achieve enlightenment first oneself, but to achieve all together. So like is someone in the boat, when you are driving the boat, while you are crossing, also you are crossing the other person, you together, And so that is like bodhicitta like boat, where they have, they want to achieve enlightenment together. And then for some practitioner whose courage is even more stronger, in terms of courage, their courage is very strong. So they want everyone to achieve enlightenment first and themselves last. That is like shepherd, like bodhicitta, the cowboy or shepherd, they come at the very last, they bring all their animals and, they come later afterwards like that, So the wish is to liberate, the wish for all sentient beings to be achieve enlightenment and to achieve oneself, the very last one, So in whatever way you achieve, whatever way all of them are pure bodhicitta. Either you practice, meditate through the way of, king, the way of boatman, the way like shepherd or cowboy, either way, they all are the true bodhicitta, So from whatever way you generate, if you are able to generate bodhicitta, the bodhicitta is true bodhicitta. And then there is another way of bodhicitta, sometimes there are two kinds of bodhicitta, ultimate bodhicitta and conventional bodhicitta, and the conventional bodhicitta is the wish to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay. And the ultimate bodhicitta is the wisdom realizing emptiness that is supported by that conventional bodhicitta mind. So sometimes you see, again, in many scriptures, practice prayers to bodhicitta mind, ultimate bodhicitta, conventional bodhicitta. So just to give some idea of the terms, those different terms, so you have, when you hear those different terms, you might be confused what they are talking about. Okay. And then you also hear, as you see here, aspiring bodhicitta and engaging bodhicitta. Okay. The aspiring bodhicitta is the wish, aspiring or the wish to achieve enlightenment, the supreme enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Engaging bodhicitta is after you have generated the aspiring bodhicitta mind, then you are actually engaged in the bodhisattva's conduct or practice, such as the practice of 6 perfections. You are actually now, not only you have the inspirations or the wish, but now you have actually engaged into the path itself. And so that is engaging bodhicitta. Okay, so here, and so as I mentioned, because here, first he explained about the aspiring bodhicitta mind, together with the commitment of that, and then engaging bodhicitta mind together with the commitment of that. And so first he explained the aspiring bodhicitta mind together with the commitments. And in terms of that, in order to cultivate that aspiring bodhicitta mind, again, there's the preparations, there's the there is the preparations, there's the actual practice, and the end. Like all the practice has that, And in terms of the preparations, then there is 3, accumulating merit, going to refuge, and then training the aspiring bodhicitta mind itself. Okay. So within those 3 things, as a preparations, the first is creating the merit. Creating the merit is creating the conducive conditions. When you have collected a conducive condition, then it is easy to accomplish whatever you are trying to accomplish. Okay, in everything. Same with the practice meditations. If you have better conditions, then your practice meditation become more effective. If you don't have good conditions, then even you meditate, even you practice, you will have more stuff, you will have more challenges and less success. And so creating merit is part of that, creating the better conditions. Okay. So with that, then here it's next verse. In the presence of fainting statues, stupas, and other representations of the perfect Buddha, so that is the object. To object to whom you are going to create the merit. So the object is, it could be the statues or the paintings, pictures of the Buddhas, and the stupas that represents the Buddha's enlightened mind, and the scriptures, the dhammas, So So in the presence of that, then offer flowers, fragrant incense, and whatever else you can afford. So then the way of creating is trying to make offerings, such as, flowers, incense, light, food, water. So whatever you can afford, you can put water bowls, make water bowl offerings, incense, light, flowers, food, whatever you can, music, so making that offerings. We don't make offerings because Buddha are waiting for you to receive your offerings, excited to receive your offerings. And then when you offer, they get so happy. If you don't offer, they get very disappointed. There's nothing to do with that. Okay? From Buddha's side, there's nothing to do with that. There's no excitement, there's no expectation, there's no disappointment, nothing like that. It's all to train our mind. It's all part of training our mind. Part of training our mind to let it go, to practice letting it go, to give, to share. And definitely, in terms of giving, sharing, letting it go, we can do to those who are in needs and also to the holy objects, And so, and here, whatever else you can afford, So if we can afford, we can make an extensive practice, extensive offerings, nice offerings. If we cannot afford, then again, it is not necessary, to make it extensive, or big, It's all about how much we can afford, how much we are willing to do, how much we can afford, Doesn't mean if you are rich, you are going to create more merit, and if you are poor, you will create less merit. It's nothing to do with that. It's based on how much we can afford according to our situation, it's all about your mind, state of mind. But we try to make those offerings as much as possible. And then that is actually arranging the offerings and actually making offering in whatever way you can. And then next is, how to make offerings if we cannot have anything, or if we are unable to offer in actual. So, then, you can visualize. You can visualize as is described in the King of Prayers, Samanbhadara's inspirations, or the King of Prayers, where you describe about how you can create through your visualization, imaginations, whole space filled with all kinds of offerings, and then making offering to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, So you can do that, how we can make offering mentally in that way. So with the sevenfold offerings, also taught in Samanbhadara's aspirations to the good deeds. So that is normally we know that a king of the prayer, okay? Here the Samanbhadara aspirations to the good deeds is what is the king of the prayer. Okay. So in the king of a prayer, at the very beginning of the king of the prayers, there is the practice of sevenfold or seven limb practice, the practice of prostrations, offerings, confessions, rejoicings, requesting to return the will of the Dharma, and requesting to remain until the samsara end and dedications. So those are the, so we cannot, so that is what, even we cannot, afford to make any actual offering. At least we can do those seven limb practice or 7 branches of practice. That is, as is described in the King of the Prayer, for example. Okay, so that is what here. That is what it means. So that is the creating marriage as the preparations. And next, and the second part of the preparations before the aspiring bodhicitta mind is going to refuge. Going to refuge. So that is why. With the thought never to turn back until attaining the essence of complete enlightenment. So that is the motivations. The motivations to go to the refuge. Okay? The motivations to go to the refuge is to achieve fully enlightenment or supreme enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. With that compassion motivations. And with the thought never to turn back, with that compassion, that not to turn back from these inspirations to achieve enlightenment in order to liberate all sentient beings. That kind of intentions, that kind of motivations, that kind of aspiration we have now, making a strong resolution never to turn back from that kind of motivation, aspirations, wishes, and with that, and out of great compassions, in order to achieve supreme enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, then what do we do with that motivation? What do we do is, with the fervent faith in the 3 jewels, so then we go to refuge, to the 3 jewels, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Okay? So then with that motivations, then we go, because here is a Mahayana path, the refuge, Mahayana refuge. And to be a Mahayana refuge, the motivation has to be compassion. Not just to liberate yourself from the suffering and cause of sufferings. The Mahayana refuge is not to go to refuge in order to liberate just yourself from the suffering or cause of suffering, or from Lord, but in order to liberate all sentient beings from the suffering and cause of suffering. So that to be a Mahayana refuge, the motivation has to be compassion. So that, and then of course, with out of that compassion motivations, then one go to the refuge, to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, to inspire, to bless, and to to show us the path, to support us in that path towards that supreme enlightenment. So then you go for refuge to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and Buddha, who is free from all the obscurations, free from all the negativities, and who have achieved, all the positive state of minds, all the excellent positive qualities of the mind, the most complete and perfect state of the mind. And the Dharma, the realization, the wisdom relies on the ultimate truth. That is the actual path, as well as the scripture that explain how to cultivate that wisdom and the compassions, and that's the Dharma. And Sangha is those who aspire to achieve, nirvana or fully enlightenment, who aspire to achieve those enlightenment and who are on the path to achieve that enlightenment, And so when you go to refuge to the Buddha Dharma, then we go, by seeing ourselves like a patient who is ill, a patient who's ill, and we are ill, we are sick with our delusions, So we are sick with this problem with the delusions, It's interesting, isn't it, how our mind is. We have full of delusions, but if someone say you are delusional, we will be so upset. If someone say you are being delusional, fires come from, smokes come from everywhere, from the ears, steams comes from all over. But it is our ego cannot accept that. Our ego is unable to accept that we are delusional, That just shows how strong our egos are. When someone doesn't say, we kind of accept, I have delusions, I have problem with delusions. We know that, we recognize that, we are aware of that. But if someone says, you are delusional, then it's hard to accept, hard to, anyway, so here what I was trying to say was recognizing we have this illness of delusions. So in that sense, we are patients. And the Buddha is the doctor who can diagnose our problem of this delusion exactly. The doctor who is able to diagnose exact illness of our delusion, obscurations, and who can prescribe exact, correct, unmistaken cure to that, who can prescribe, how to heal or how to heal that illness of the delusions. And the Dharma is the actual treatment, the cure, the medicine. So finding the right doctor who can diagnose correctly and who can prescribe the right treatments is very important to cure the illness. But it is even more important to take the medicine that has been described or prescribed. If you don't take the medicine that has been prescribed, if you don't take the treatment that has been prescribed by the doctor, then doctor cannot do much to help you to cure. And so that means taking the medicine, taking the treatment to cure means actualizing the Dharma within ourselves. Actualizing the Dharma within ourselves through practice, meditations, the way we take the medicine to cure the illness of that delusion, the way we take the treatment is by cultivating or actualizing the Dharma within ourselves through the practice meditations. And when you are able to do that, then that becomes the actual refuge. That becomes the actual refuge that can cure you. And Sangha is the assistant, the nurse, who help to take the medication at the right times, when we forget, reminding ourselves, all of that, supporting assistance to that. So with that understanding, that's how we go to refuge, by seeing ourselves as the patients, seeing the Buddhas as the doctors, seeing the Dharma as the medicine, and Sangha as the assistance, support system, and through that, then that's how we go refuge. And the way to protect ourselves or cure ourselves, heal ourselves, is the actual real cure is the Dharma. And it's not like Dharma outside that is going to cure you. That you have to actualize the Dharma within your mind stream. Okay? And that is where the real actual cure happens. That is where real protection comes from. And so then, in terms of once we have gone to the refuge, so then how, in terms of our, physical actions, then, place one knee on the ground. If you can, is kind of respectful way, join the palm together, all of these are kind of all these are kind of the actions, physical actions of respect, especially in certain cultures. So, so that is with that kind of joint palm up together. If you cannot place your one knee, you can place both knee. And if you have a problem in that, you don't even have to, place your knee, So again, don't be so, so fixed in all of that. Sometimes again, you become so rigid in all of that. And if your body is allow you to do that, then you do. If not, then it's just fine. And then first take refuge 3 times, So then we go, and the refuge prayers, we can go the normal refuge prayers that we do every time, I go to refuge to Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha until I achieve enlightenment, and through the practice of generosity and so forth, in order to achieve enlightenment, so that Sangha. Or you can do, I go refuge to the Buddha, I go refuge to the Dharma, I go refuge to the Sangha, or Namo Buddha, Namo Dhamma, Namo Sangha. So, so any of those different, they are the different kind of prayers that you can use, And so while you recite the refuge 3 times, you can, when you are doing by yourself, okay, of course, if you are taking from a teacher, then of course you repeat after them and the teacher will also guide you how to do. But if you are taking by yourself, you recite 3 times, you can imagine visualizing, repeating those refuge prayers from the Buddha or the teachers. And then at the 3rd repetition, then you can think and visualize that you got the refuge vows, you got the refuge, You imagine, you visualize after the 3rd repetition, you think I received the refuge and refuge vows. You have already received in the past, you can imagine and think, your refuge has been renewed, your refuge and refuge vows have been renewed, so 3 times like that. So that is the preparations, not the actual preparation, but the refuge. So preparation. So in preparation, we just finished the accumulation of merit, and then the refuge. And 3rd is the training the mind. Training the mind. Training the mind. Training the mind of loving kindness and compassion. Because loving kindness and compassion is the root cause of the bodhicitta mind. Without the loving kindness and great compassion, you cannot have bodhicitta mind. So in order to cultivate the bodhicitta mind, first you train in loving kindness and compassion. And so first you need to train that. And so that is where it is, Then begin with the mind of love, so loving kindness, for all sentient beings. So we try to train the mind to cultivate loving kindness towards all sentient beings. Consider all those without exceptions. So trying to take in the object of our loving kindness, without exceptions of any sentient being, including all sentient beings, without excluding any sentient beings, including yourself. And I think I repeat, and remind all the time when we talk about all sentient beings, I always repeat and remind, including yourself. Because there is sometimes people have misunderstanding. All sentient beings means rest of other sentient beings and not yourself. Do you get it? All different practice when we do 4 images, may all sentient beings be free from suffering, cause suffering, may all sense happiness. And whenever we have all sentient beings, sometimes you think, rest of the all sentient beings, but not me. Do you get it? That is totally misunderstanding. When you say all sentient beings, you are included and you should be aware of that and you should think of that. And so therefore, not only we need to have compassion and loving kindness to all other sentient beings, but yourself. All sentient beings means you're including yourself. So you should also try to feel, generate loving kindness and compassion. You cannot exclude yourself. If you excluded that, then you have not considered all sentient beings. Because you have excluded one sentient being, which is yourself. Okay? So loving kindness is the main cause of great compassion, and great compassion is the main cause of the bodhicitta mind. So we need to train that, And in order to have a feeling of loving kindness, when you have a feeling of closeness of any sentient beings, when you feel very close with any sentient beings, or when sentient beings are close to you, when you feel they are close to you, it's easy to feel compassion. Easy to feel compassion. Okay? When you feel close to you, it is easy to feel compassion. When you don't feel close to you, it is more difficult to feel compassion and loving kindness, love, affections. If you don't feel that person's or any beings is not close to you, is not very close to you, if you don't feel that closeness, it's much more difficult to feel that loving kindness. But if you feel close, then it's easy to feel that. And therefore, then you train in recognizing all sentient beings, being mother sentient beings, not only all sentient beings, I've been mother sentient beings many times, not mother sentient beings, but there have been many times, not only there are many times when they have been mother sentient beings, they have been so kind, and not only one time, and they have been kind also when they are not sentient beings. For example, if I think of just my mom of this life, not only she has been very kind to me in this life and many, many other life, but, even when she was not mother, she was still very kind in so many different ways, as a father, as a brother, as a sister, as a grandparent, as an uncle, auntie, as a cousins, as a friend, as a teacher, sometimes as a teacher, sometimes as a doctor's nurse, sometimes as in different, they have not only as a mother, but when they have also come in a different, in a different things, they always has been kind in so many different ways. We can just look in our life in this time, how much kindness we get, the help, support we get through our life. And a lot of time also from strangers, kindness of strangers, So the more we reflect, contemplate on that, the kindness of others, everything that we experience now is the kindness of others. Everything I eat is kindness of others, because I don't grow hardly anything myself. Everything I wear is kindness of others, to keep warm, because I don't make any of those clothes myself. I don't make those, even the raw material, even making a cloth, you need the raw material. I don't make any of those things. The shelter that anywhere I go in the world, I don't make myself. I'm able to have all the shelter because of the kindness of others. I'm able to travel, walk, and travel because of kindness of others. Without others, I will not be able to travel. I'm able to communicate with my friends, family all over the world because of kindness of others. Because without their kindness of that, I would not have access to all of this to be able to reach, Whatever I'm able to, even whatever small help I'm able to do, even whatever small help I'm able to do through sharing my knowledge, or whether it is supporting someone else in whatever way, is also all through kindness of others. I will not be able to do that without kindness of others. Whatever I've learned is kindness of others. Whatever I've experienced is, good experience, is through the kindness of others. Whatever Dharma I have learned is through the kindness of others. Whatever I'm able to practice a little bit is through the kindness of others. All the happiness, whether it's a physical comfort, whether it's a physical pleasure, or whether it's a mental peace, happiness, it all comes because of contribution and kindness of others. Because of contribution and kindness of others. Even the fully enlightenment, supreme enlightenment that I might be able to achieve in the future, it only comes through the kindness of others. Temporary happiness, ultimate happiness, physical comfort, mental peace, every happiness, everything comes through the kindness of others. So once we are able to feel that kindness of others, when you feel the kindness of others, then you feel close to them. They become close to you. You feel close to them. You feel they are close to you. And if you feel close to them because of their kindness, then it's much more easy to feel affections, love, loving kindness towards them. So that is what meditation is about. When you talk about, how to meditate on loving kindness. Well, just try to meditate on kindness of others. Try to feel the kindness of others. Try to contemplate, try to reflect, contemplate on kindness of others. When you reflect, contemplate on kindness of others, slowly, you begin to feel the kindness of others. And not only kindness of few individuals, you begin to feel kindness of all sentient beings, directly, indirectly involved. Everything that we are experiencing, I'm enjoying so many things through the kindness of people I don't know. The food that I'm having, I don't know all these farmers, I don't know all the people who are transporting, I don't know all the people who are selling, all of that, but I'm experiencing their kindness. I'm wearing all this robe to keep me warm. I don't know who made all this. If you go and all of that, but I'm still, even I don't know them, I'm experiencing the kindness of them. And some of those people who contributed towards whose kindness that I'm experiencing and contributed for my well-being's comfort, might be still I'm feeling they are my enemy. Someone I might be this. Do you get it? And so that is what meditations, So if someone, because everything that we are describing or the teaching that we go, they all are teaching how to meditate, okay? You don't think this is teaching and there must be another tools or method to meditate different things. Do you get it? Sometimes I hear, you all hear teaching and then someone comes and say, how to meditate? As to what we have been talking is something else. It is just kind of nothing to do with the meditation. Then someone comes, but I want to meditate. How can I meditate? And we just describe how to meditate. So that is what I'm reminding. How to meditate on loving kindness is try to contemplate, reflect on the kindness of others. The more you reflect, the more, maybe at the very beginning, when you try to reflect on it, you might not feel, even you are, you might not feel it. It's okay. Still, oil, but we always have this burden, this and that, always. But if you continue to really reflect, contemplate on that continuously, again and again, slowly, you will begin to feel their kindness. Slowly, you will begin to feel not only the kindness of those people who have contributed you directly, who have helped you directly, but even those whom you do not know, whom you have never met, whom you do not know where they are, who they are, what they are doing, what they are not doing, still you can feel their kindness. If we try to, and if you feel kindness, then it's much more easier to, if you can feel kindness, then it's much more easier to feel loving kindness and compassion. So that is where we are there. Yeah, for all sentient beings, consider all this without exception, who suffer in the three lower realms from birth, death, and so forth. So here, then, once you have loving kindness, the next meditation is on compassion. Okay? So you try to meditate on loving kindness, and then you try to meditate on compassions. How do we meditate on compassions? So here it is described here. You try to contemplate and reflect, meditate on the suffering of lower rebirth. Okay? And again, some of the, we might not be so sure of, hungry ghost realms, hell realms, but at least we can see the animal realms, and try to meditate on the suffering of animal realms. If possible, if we can, it's better to meditate on all three, suffering of all three realms. But if you have difficulty with some, then at least you can try to do those you feel more easy. So meditate on suffering of, lower realms, sentient beings of the lower realms. Okay. Then from birth and death, that means the suffering of the human beings. In human beings, there is suffering of birth, and then death, and in between there's suffering of illness, the suffering of agings, and then all other sufferings, problem and suffering in our life, in the relationship, encountering that we do not want and not getting what we want, so many other sufferings, losing those we are close to, being separated and losing, the suffering of losing, being separated from those who are close to whom we are, and meeting and seeing and hearing those we do not want to hear, all of that. There's all the suffering of human beings, as well as, suffering of demigod and god realms. So basically, meditating on individual suffering of the sentient beings in all six realms. okay? With the wish to liberate beings from the suffering of suffering, so, and from suffering and its causes. Mm. Mm. So you reflect, contemplate on that. So the suffering of pain, normally you see in many of the Buddhist teachings, three types of suffering: suffering of pain, or suffering of change, and suffering of all pervasives. So generally speaking, the suffering of pain is mainly in three lower realms. The suffering of change is mainly in human and desire God realms, and then suffering of all pervasive is mainly in form and formless God realm, as well as in all other realms. So basically, thinking on suffering of pain, suffering of change, and suffering of all pervasive, as well as their causes. And the causes of those sufferings is the karma and the delusions. So as long as there is a karma and a delusion, even if someone is not suffering immediately, there is always the potential them to suffer at any moment, because the cause is always there. So when you understand that, again, even you don't see them obvious pain and suffering, you know that it's easy to feel compassion, because the suffering can manifest anytime, because the cause is still there, It's like someone who has the illness, has never been cured, but who has been free of the symptom for a moment. Do you get it? Because they took some medications. But when that medicine's power rules, then again, they will have that, because the cause is still there. So as long as the cause is there, then, still, even they don't have that obvious suffering of that symptom, but still they are suffering. And through that understanding, then we try to generate the wish to liberate from free, or liberate them from all their suffering, individual suffering, and cause of all the suffering. And that wish, that strong wish to free them, liberate them from their suffering and cause of suffering, is the compassion. Is the compassions. Mm. So when we meditated on loving kindness, and even before that, you already felt from the practice meditation, you already felt everyone being very close to you, because feeling kindness of each of them, you feel all close to you. And because you feel everyone's very close to you, then it becomes easy to feel loving kindness. And now, to whom you feel very close to you, you try to meditate, contemplate, reflect on their sufferings. And when you reflect, contemplate on their pain and suffering, then you started to feel their pain and suffering. And when you feel their pain and suffering, then the wish to free them, liberate them from pain and suffering comes naturally. That compassion comes. That compassion arises because you feel they are close to you, very dear and close to you, and you feel their pain and suffering. Who wouldn't feel compassion if they can feel that person or that individual is very close to them, very dear to them. At the same time, they feel their pain and sufferings. It's not possible not to feel compassion. When you have these two things, when you feel both of those things, one, you feel very dear to you, very close to you, very kind to you. One, on the other side, you understand and feel their pain and suffering. Then you have compassion, the great compassion, So, and when you have that compassion to all sentient beings, each and every sentient being, then that becomes great compassion, and that is the main cause of the bodhicitta mind. Okay, that great compassion lead to the bodhicitta mind that induce the bodhicitta mind. So that is first. That is how first we train in that mind. First we train in mind. So training up to this compassion, the practice meditations on that, the meditation on practice on the compassions is part of the, preparations, training your mind to cultivate the bodhicitta mind. Then in terms of the actual bodhicitta mind itself, so those are the cause of the bodhicitta mind. The cause of the bodhicitta mind. The actual bodhicitta mind itself is then the next one line. Where is it? Once you have trained on that loving kindness and bodhicitta mind, out of that loving kindness and compassion mind, then you generate bodhicitta with irreversible resolve. So that is the bodhicitta mind. Training the bodhicitta mind in that way. Then, once you feel, incredible compassion. For example, let's see your most, beloved child and yourself is freezing and is in a weather where it's freezing and there is, so much pain and suffering and danger to the life, dying through the by being frozen with that coldness. And you both are in same environment situation, and there is not much you can do at this point. As much as you feel so much compassion, as much as you want to give warmth and protect and the pain and suffering of coldness, but you both are in the same situation, you can't do much. And if you know that if you can just run away certain places, you can be able to find a fire, you can make fire, or you can find a rope cloth that you can give, blanket that can protect him from that suffering and that. What will you think? You will immediately think, run away to get the blanket or the fire, whatever. You see the solutions and you need to go to there to fix that, to protect that from that pain and sufferings. Similarly, we have the compassion, just like you have the compassion to your child in this time. You feel that pain and you really want to help, you really want to free, but in that moment, in that place, you cannot, at that very moment, you cannot do anything. So even we have great compassion, that is what it is. Even as much as we have such like that mothers, that parents wish to protect that son, the child, and liberate from the suffering. But, We ourselves is in suffering. We ourselves is under the control of delusions and karma. We ourselves is totally lost like themselves. We ourselves is totally confused like themselves. We ourselves are very delusional like themselves. So how can I help someone to be free from confusion when I myself is confused? How can I help someone to find the path when I myself is lost? How can I help someone to be free of delusional when I myself isn't delusional? The feeling is there, the emotion is there, the compassion is there, wanting to do something, but it is almost like helpless because we don't have the skills or means to do that. And then that is when, just like with a child that you see there is a blanket other side. And if we can get a blanket, we can help that person, the child. Then you see, oh, if only I can achieve enlightenment, free the state that's free of confusion, free of delusion, free of all the obscurations, free of all this karma. If I can reach that state, then that is where I can really be great help, benefit, and liberate them from not only their suffering, one suffering, but all the sufferings. Not only all the suffering temporary, but permanently. Not only suffering, cause of all suffering. I can do that if I can achieve fully enlightenment myself. If I can achieve supreme enlightenment myself. Once you understand that, once you realize that, once you feel that, then the wish to achieve that enlightenment comes. The inspirations, the aspiration, the wish to achieve that enlightenment come naturally, just as you will have the wish to run and get the blanket. Same way you will feel, oh, it's like I need to practice to achieve that enlightenment as soon as possible. Just like you would want to run as fast as possible to get a blanket. Same way, I would like to achieve that enlightenment as soon as possible so I can protect them as soon as possible. And so that aspiration or wish to achieve that enlightenment in order to liberate them, driven by that kind of love and compassion, is the Bodhicitta mind. That is the aspiring Bodhicitta mind. And once you have that aspiring Bodhicitta mind, it can be still loose. Even you have achieved that, you can, that can also be degenerated until you reach a certain point. When you reach a certain point, there is no more degenerations. It will be very stabilized, only going up. But until we reach that point, at the very beginning, you can still lose the Bodhicitta mind. So, then in order not to lose it, of course, we need to continue to practice, meditate, but also make a strong resolve and resolutions, regardless, no matter how much challenges that might come in the path, I will never give up this Bodhicitta mind. I will never give up this Bodhicitta mind. That resolve that's the way it is, irreversible resolve. That is what it means, okay? You generate that Bodhicitta mind, and once you have generated Bodhicitta mind, then you make that kind of resolution or resolve that, no matter how difficult, no matter how challenging, no matter how much difficulty I might encounter, face it I will never give up this bodhicitta mind. I will never give up that bodhicitta. So trying to generate that resolve. That is the aspiring bodhicitta mind. And when you have that aspiring bodhicitta mind, then through certain ceremony, whether through in relation with the teachers, spiritual teachers, or by yourself in front of the holy objects, then you try to generate this aspiring bodhicitta mind through the ceremony, And once you try to do that, trying to resolve that, and then stabilize that as much as possible through that ceremony, through that practice of the ceremony. And then you try to engage in the training of the commitment of aspiring bodhicitta mind, as it will come later, as it will be described later. Okay. So I think that is, so I think maybe that is all for today. So any questions so far? Any questions? Any comments? Questions? Something to share?
Geshe, Heather has a question.
Yes, please.
Hello, Geshe. Thank you. This is wonderful as always. My question is, you talked at the beginning of the teaching about the king and the boat and the shepherd. And then the metaphor of the running to get the blanket. And so I don't quite understand with the boat and the shepherd, if you don't have enlightenment yourself, boat, how do you know where the boat's going, and how are you leading the sheep in the right direction?
Well, that kind of meditations is, in reality, in terms of the reality, of course, even you don't want to achieve enlightenment first. When you practice that, you will achieve enlightenment first. You can't stop. It's not what you wish, it is creating the cause and conditions.
Right.
So, but in terms of individual practitioners, courageous is that kind of like, especially like a shepherd, like they want to be in samsara and experience all the sufferings, experience suffering themselves, and trying to help others to achieve enlightenment in whatever way they can. Even though they might not be able to help completely achieve enlightenment because they are not enlightened, but they have this inspiration. Even in whatever small way I can help to achieve them, release their suffering and achieve them enlightenment, I'm going to do that. And as long as it takes until each and everyone is liberated, that just shows their courageous.
Right.
But did they do that? No. The more they have that courageous mind, the more they accumulate merit.
Yeah. Okay.
And the more they achieve enlightenment first. They don't want to achieve enlightenment first, but they achieve enlightenment first.
Okay. I get it.
Yeah. The shepherd like there's that kind of, with the bodhisattvas or any practitioner, we have that kind of courageous and that kind of, they will achieve enlightenment even first than the one who are like king-like,
Right.
in reality. But in terms of their mental state or courageous, that is how they are. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Any others? Then we do the call. We can do the dedication if there's no more questions. That means there's nothing in the chat. May all beings everywhere plagued by the suffering of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtues of my merit. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid and belittled, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see form and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored, finding repose. May the naked find clothing, hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drink. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicine be effective and wholesome prayer bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever disease they are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid. Those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and make people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.